Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond collection. Actually, this would be Jurassic Park Hammond collection figure to take a look at. We've got ourselves the Dilophosaurus. This is one that I was pretty excited about, but after seeing the images of it, I was a little less excited because I feel like it didn't look as good as I was hoping. I was hoping it would look a little bit better. More similar to the Amber Collection version, because the Amber Collection version was fantastic, but this version is lacking a little bit when it comes to the paint, I will say that, but having it here in person and kind of looking at it through the window area, it definitely looks nicer than I was expecting, which is a plus. As far as the packaging goes, you can see it's pretty much the standard when it comes to the Hammond collection. You've got the nice Hammond collection logo there, of course, Dilophosaurus, and then the Mattel logo right there, Hammond collection here on the side. You've got a nice image of the Dilophosaurus figure over here with a beautiful Jurassic Park logo down underneath, and then the back, of course, shows off the Dilophosaurus, as well as a screenshot from the film of Jurassic Park with the Dilophosaurus attacking Dennis Nedry, and then some information on the dinosaur right here. So let's pop this open and check it out. So here is our Dilophosaurus. And let's get the feet in a better position. So they're not really in much of a better position, but we've also got the frill that's more relaxed here as well. And looking at the figure again, first impressions, it is definitely nice. It is a really beautiful looking Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus. But the one thing that, well, two things actually that are a little bit of a letdown, kind of a downside to this figure, is the fact that we don't kind of have like that white striping, that white outlining, I should say, not striping, the white outlining that you usually see on the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park that was found on the Amber Collection version. And also you can see that the paint doesn't run very far out onto the tail as far as the coloration here on the top, which it really should have run out a little further. And I feel like that definitely could have made a pretty drastic difference for the figure if we would have, gone that route, gave it that little bit more paint application. But one thing that is really nice about this one is I feel like that, of course, the feet are larger than they should be, but they're not as noticeably larger compared to like the Velociraptor or even the Gallimimus. The larger feet on this one aren't, in my opinion, anywhere near as obnoxious looking as some are on other Hammond collection figures, which is definitely a big time plus for this Dilophosaurus. And overall, again, it looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Dilophosaurus, it definitely looks good, and they've perfectly recreated the Dilophosaurus as far as the sculpt goes, if you ask me. It definitely looks, again, about as screen accurate as it can get for a Dilophosaurus. You've got some pretty nice coloration to the face as well, since we have that nice black that kind of runs there around the eye and then up into the crest of our Dilophosaurus. We also have a slight color change there around the eye in the eye socket area with kind of like a reddish brown. You can see the eyes are yellow and given a black pupil. And the paintwork of both sides of the face is really quite nicely done, very precise and looks good. You've got the nostrils sculpted out right there. Of course, you've got yourself an articulated jaw, and you can see that we've got a nice gloss coat added to the inside, as well as a nice kind of pinkish tone for the tongue, as well as the skin there on the side of the mouth. Unfortunately, and oddly enough, we don't have any coloration on the inside of the mouth on the upper side, which is kind of surprising, honestly, because they usually go a little bit further than they normally do for the Hammond collection, but they didn't on this one. I will say the jaw does articulate really quite nicely. The teeth are also sculpted okay, and you can see they're painted with kind of an off-white. They don't look too terrible or anything like that. No sloppiness that I'm really picking up on. Of course, you have the frill of the Dilophosaurus, the extended version here, and the detailing of that as well looks pretty good. It definitely has some nice like skin texture and stuff to it, and you have a plethora of coloration in the frill of the Dilophosaurus. As you start out with a black, and then as you lead out, it transitions to a yellow, but also has kind of like some splotchy reds and whites that are all over the place, and then there's also kind of like a black speckling throughout. So definitely some really flashy coloration, and pretty reminiscent of the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park. Not perfectly, but it looks pretty good, and it also transitions again back to the green for the outer edge of the frill, which looks good. The frill is removable, and as you can see, we just kind of pop it off, and that's old school the way that that works. That's absolutely a Kenner Jurassic Park style frill right there. But you can then have the Dilophosaurus completely frillless if you choose to, which I actually quite like. Or you can also, again, bring this up. And even though it's not sitting perfectly on my Dilophosaurus right now, you can see you have the more relaxed kind of frill, which has that same coloration you see for the lower jaw, and then transitions to a red down at the bottom, and also some nice detailing, some nice texturing throughout as far as that goes. But as you move down, we'll keep the frill off just so we can see the articulation a little better. You can see that we have the articulated jaw yet again. You've also got a swivel right here in the neck, which can also allow you to bend the neck down a little bit. You can see how it's wiggling, but you can also see this joint kind of taking over and allowing the neck to really, go into some very interesting poses for your Dilophosaurus, definitely giving you a lot of posability for the figure. As you move down into the neck, if my camera would focus on it, you can see that we have some nice skin texture as we move down. You also have more, if we position it correctly, now it lines up actually. You have some more black that kind of starts here, right behind the head, and then stripes down into the neck. You also have another stripe up here that kind of connects down here closer to the body. You see more of that black right there in that articulated area. And then, of course, those greens, those classic Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus greens. On the lower jaw, again, you have that kind of off-white, but it transitions to a yellowish tone here in the throat, and it's a little bit more of a vibrant yellow because as you get down here, it starts to transition more to like a lighter yellow. So there is a little color difference right there, which is pretty cool to see. As you move down a little further into the body, you can definitely see some really nice skin detail, skin texture. Definitely some fantastic detailing on this figure. More of that black kind of stripes and designs down through. Really smooth as far as the application of that black. It looks incredibly natural on the figure as a whole. Really, really nice paint application as far as that goes. And you can also see a smooth transition as we move down to that yellow as well. Leading down into the arm, you can see some nice muscle definition as well as some nice finger sculpts here with some scoots down the fingers. And you've got some painted nails on the hands, which are also a huge plus because it's always good to have painted nails, and we don't often get that from Mattel except for the Hammond collection, so we've got to soak that up as much as possible, but definitely nicely painted nails, and they do have a nice gloss coat to them as well, which is a plus. As you move back here, again, you can kind of make out the hip bone, but it's not super visible, but definitely some nice muscle definition moving down the thigh, and you can see more of that black picking up in the thigh, running along the front of the thigh and designing back, but it does end before we even reach the knee, and then as you move down, you've got a little calf muscle, and a pretty nice looking foot sculpt. Again, nice scoots down the toes for sure. And again, those nails are painted with that nice glossy black, but we are missing the paint for the dew claw because Mattel has some sort of a weird grudge against the dew claw. So unfortunately, even though the dew claw is present, we did not get paint for that area. But as we move back up again toward the tail, some more really nice skin texture, some more of that black kind of designing down. As we lead out into the tail, you can see the black kind of tapers off and disappears. We sort of have a black speckling as we move out the rest of the tail, kind of giving you the feeling that there is sort of paintwork the entire way out, even if the paint does stop there. But you basically have a green for the rest of the tail. Nice looking detail as far as the fine detail goes, that's for sure. That yellow ends here in the groin area before we run out the rest of the tail, so unfortunately that coloration as well didn't get the full body treatment. But you can see again over here as far as this side goes, it also looks pretty darn nice as far as the sculpt goes, as far as the paintwork, very precise compared to what we had just seen on the initial side. Definitely a beautiful looking Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus sculpt. And then as you move down, you do have the articulation in the arms where you can pull the arms out away from the body, and then of course you can move them forward and back. Same deal with the elbow. You've got all kinds of articulation, including a swivel for the elbow, which is also cool. And then you have the hip articulation and the knee articulation right there, which also can swivel. And then same deal with the ankle. Kind of holding it at a weird angle, but forward and back and also swivel, allowing you like that really nice position as the Dilophosaurus is like picking its foot up off of the ground. So beautiful posability there. You also have a tail joint right here that can swivel and then kind of move left, right, up, down, all over the place. And then you have a bendable wire tail on top of everything. So definitely a really cool figure. Much better, honestly, than I was expecting it to be, which I didn't have low expectations for it, because at this point I feel like the Hammond collection has set the bar pretty high for a Mattel figure. But of course, there usually are quite a bit of problems with them, especially like with the Velociraptors and stuff, but this one definitely looks beautiful, much better than I was expecting it to be. And again, one of the really exciting aspects of the Hammond collection so far has been how good the figures are at standing. And you can see that this Dilophosaurus, even though the feet weren't perfectly positioned, is no different. It stands beautifully. As far as a size goes, lengthwise, if you have the head up like this, of course, it could be a little longer, actually, if we stretch the neck out a little bit. Like now, we definitely have like maximum length, I would say, for the Dilophosaurus. So lengthwise, you were looking at about the 8-inch range, or around 20 centimeters, maybe a little over 20 centimeters. And then if we bring the head back up in more of a natural position, height-wise now, you are looking at about 3¼ inches, or approaching 8½ centimeters, but not quite there. Maybe a little over 8 centimeters. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Dilophosaurus. And if we kind of pan out here a little bit, you can really see again that it's not exactly a huge figure, but it's not exactly small. I would say it's pretty much the exact size range you would expect for a Hammond Collection Dilophosaurus. But for another comparison, we've got ourselves a more mainline Mattel Dilophosaurus next to the Hammond Collection version, and you can definitely see that they are about the same size. The size isn't too far off from each other. I would actually say they're probably the exact same size. They really do appear to be. But for another comparison, here we have the Hammond Collection Velociraptor next to the Dilophosaurus, and although the Dilophosaurus definitely has larger feet, they don't look near as bad as that Velociraptor. I don't know what it is about that raptor, but those feet are just so distracting for me. But you can see that they are a very similar size, going face to face with each other right here. They're definitely not too far off as far as the size goes. And then for one final comparison, you can see we've got the Hammond Collection T-Rex next to the Dilophosaurus, and there is an absolutely massive size difference between the two of these figures. But again, you would expect there to be. So hopefully the comparisons that we've given you will help to give you a pretty good idea of the size, as it's, again, as I put it earlier, probably the exact size you would expect it to be. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic Park Hammond Collection Dilophosaurus is definitely another really nice release from them. And overall, it's honestly a beautiful figure. The sculpt looks great as far as the screen accuracy goes. I feel like it looks pretty much exactly like the Dilophosaurus looks in Jurassic Park, so they have done a great job of sculpting out the general appearance as well as the fine detail. It definitely has some beautiful skin texture and skin detail throughout, and lots of really nice detailing like muscle definition and all of that fun stuff. The type of detail you would expect to find on a Mattel figure, but it is really vibrant detail, really nice, crisp looking sculpt. The paint job is probably the only slight letdown to the figure, but even that is pretty good for what it is. It's just not quite as nice as we saw on the Amber Collection version, just because there's a little bit more paint application on the Amber Collection version, and I would have brought mine out, but unfortunately that one is currently sitting in a storage area. But regardless, the paint that we have been given is definitely nice, looks good overall, and again, looks pretty much, I guess, as close as you probably are going to get for a Hammond Collection release to what the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus looked like. It's just missing little things like the white outline and a little bit more color out onto the tail, a little more color on the underneath. Stuff like that could have made it a little better, but it still looks really good, again, for what it is. And then on top of that, you have some fun articulation, which is always probably the most important part when it comes to these Hammond Collection releases, and all of the articulation works beautifully. The figure stands perfectly, and on top of that, has, of course, just a lot of posability and display options for the Dilophosaurus. I also love the fact that you can remove the frill, like classic Kenner style, remove the frill, and you can also, of course, add the more relaxed frill around the neck if you would choose to, or you can just go the route of no frill at all. Again, it's more options for you to choose from, and definitely fun to have the ability to choose those options. But honestly, it is a great release yet again from Mattel for the Hammond Collection line, and I cannot wait to get more of these Hammond Collection figures into my collection, because at this point I am definitely addicted to them. But if you are interested in picking one up, you can head to your local Target if you happen to have one near you, or order on Target.com. As far as like other countries go, I'm not positive how or where you could acquire them, but definitely grab it if you can find it, because it is definitely a nice release and a very nice addition to the Mattel Hammond Collection line. So make sure you do that, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.